It's been roughly a month since I started flying the DJI Mavic 3, and in today's video I'll share both the positive and the negative impressions that I have about the Mavic 3 and let you know whether you should buy one in its current state. As usual, I don't like dragging these videos for too long, so if you're only interested in a specific subject, make sure you use the chapters in the description so you can skip straight to that section. If you enjoy quick and straight to the point videos, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this one. Let's begin. The first and probably most important thing about this drone that I want to talk about is the camera quality. And I can say for sure that the Mavic 3 provides hands down the best quality that I've seen on any drone that I've personally used, besides maybe the Inspire 2, but for any foldable drone that I've used, the Mavic 3 takes the cake. You have a big variety of different frame rates, different resolutions and color profiles to choose from, so depending on your needs, you can set the right one and get the shot. On the Mavic 3, you have the choice between DLOG and standard color profile. Unfortunately though, DLOG is kind of different compared to everything else that I've ever used so far. And that is because you only have two options when it comes to picking your ISO. You have a minimum ISO of 400 and a maximum ISO of 800, meaning that you cannot ever select anything else besides these two values. That's perfectly fine for me though. I understand why DJI had to make this choice so they can limit the amount of noise in your footage, and I don't go over ISO of 400 for 90% of my shots anyway, so it's fine. It's really fine. My biggest problem with DLOG is not the lack of options between the ISO values. My biggest problem is the fact that I don't see what I'm shooting. Because when you select DLOG as your color profile, of course, everything is super flat. Previously, on other DJI drones, DJI has incorporated this assistance LUT, which kind of shows you how your end footage is going to look like, but at the same time, it records your footage in the DLOG color profiles. That's probably one of the biggest things I miss on this drone, because for the most part, especially if you're filming in cloudy conditions where you don't really have a lot of contrast between the objects, it's just a pain in the butt to record anything. Other than that, I think DLOG is definitely the way to go if you're one of those people like me who always want to color grade their footage themselves. However, a big however, the standard color profile is almost as good when compared to DLOG when you grade it. It's really good in terms of camera quality, in terms of colors. The Hasselblad color science is something that DJI is very proud to use on their drones. So of course the Mavic 3 makes no exceptions. The colors are just amazing. They're very vivid. I would say the footage is a bit too sharp for my taste. And unfortunately, we still don't have controls over how sharp the footage will be, how much saturation we'll have. You don't have those specific settings that previously we've had on DJI Go 4. So for me, even though I prefer to shoot everything in DLOG, I just tend to switch every now and then to standard color profile just so I can see a little bit better what I'm filming, and also for another big reason. As we all know, DJI released this drone without any intelligent flight modes being present on the drone. Recently though, they came out with a new firmware update which finally introduced Active Track 5.0, Master Shots, Point of Interest, Spotlight and some other features which previously were not available on this drone. Unfortunately though, you cannot use any of these intelligent flight modes while shooting in 5.1K or while shooting in DLOG color profile. So you have to switch back to normal color profile, and you have to switch back to 4K 30 frames per second or 60 frames per second if you want to use any of these modes. For me, this is a huge bummer. I don't want to make it a big thing, but for me, this drone had to be one for the pros. And yes, some people would argue that the pros wouldn't use any intelligent flight modes, they would just fly manually all the time. And I agree. However, if you have these modes on the drone and they work so well, because they do work very well, you have to have the option to use them as you wish. They have to help you in your work and your workflow and not limit you in any way. And right now, they limit you in a big way. To be honest, when it comes to flying a drone, I'm a simple guy. I prefer to shoot everything in the highest resolution possible so I can have some framing and cropping capabilities later in post. And I prefer to shoot everything in the flattest color profile possible so I can be the one responsible for how the footage is going to look like. But right now, let's say I want to use Spotlight to keep a certain object in the middle of the shot. I can't use DLOG, I can't use 5K, I can't reframe things later. That's not a big deal for some people. For me though, it's not something that I appreciate, especially after spending so much money for this drone, and still I feel like it's limiting how I use it. Especially if you're trying to match the DLOG look and the standard color profile look of your footage and you mix them up, it's kind of messy, so it's not ideal if you switch back and forth all the time. So for that, I don't really like the current state of the intelligent flight modes and your camera settings. In terms of flight performance, I can say that I'm overall happy with the Mavic 3. It flies very well, but I don't feel like it flies for that long. I think it flies for roughly 35 minutes instead of the promised up to 46. And it's kind of a big gap between the promised maximum flight time and the real flight time that I'm getting. So roughly 35 minutes with each battery is what I'm usually getting with the Mavic 3. Once you get the drone in the air, it's very, very smooth. All the manual flying that I've been doing so far feels very, very smooth and precise, so I cannot say anything bad about that. I'm really, really happy about that. But I have a big issue with how twitchy and wobbly the drone gets when you start landing it. Especially if you try to hand catch this drone, it gets really, really messy. Every single time I try to hand catch the drone, it just starts wobbling left and right. It kind of moves away from me. It's trying to escape from my hand, actually getting it. And it's really, really uncomfortable for me. It's really unexpected behavior that I wasn't prepared for. Previously, on any other DJI drone, as soon as you try to hand catch it, of course, it detects your hand and it goes up a little bit. And then as you press more on the left stick, it goes down and it eventually just lands in the palm of your hand. However, this time here on the Mavic 3, the drone starts going left, starts going right, just wobbles, and it feels very, very twitchy, very wobbly, and kind of like it's freaking out. So my solution for this is to set the drone into sport mode so it can disable all of its sensors on the bottom, so I can safely hand catch it. Otherwise, if you just want to land it on a flat surface, it doesn't do any of those things that I just mentioned. It just smoothly lands on the ground and it's just fine. If you try to hand catch it though, it will battle with you, it will try to escape, and it won't be very happy to do it. So to sum everything up, the Mavic 3 is a good drone, but I'm not perfectly happy with it as of right now. The drone has a lot of issues that need to be addressed by DJI as quickly as possible. Not only those intelligent flight modes, but those customization options that we are used to having on previous pro drones from DJI, like the Mavic 2 Pro, for example. We had so many options right from the get-go that we don't have here on the Mavic 3. And if you remember, I did a video a very while back when the Mavic 2 Pro was first announced, and it was that the Mavic 2 Pro was not ready when it was announced and released. Here, unfortunately, it's the same situation. DJI is just playing games with us, releasing products that are just not ready for the market yet, and we are their beta testers. Unfortunately, that's the way it always goes with DJI products and with most products nowadays. We are the real beta testers right now, testing out different features, different things that should have been present on day one, that should have been tested by their testers, their own testers, before they release the drone. For the price we're paying for this product, I think we deserve a little bit more assistance from DJI, a little bit more transparency, and a little bit more help coming from them. I believe that's something that should be present on the drones, should be coming as soon as possible. And I know they're working 24/7 when it comes to providing the best they can for this drone, but it's just not enough at this point. So should you buy a Mavic 3, it's December 16th, the day I'm filming this video. Should you buy a Mavic 3 today? I would say wait for a couple more months if you're not really rushing to use the latest and greatest by DJI, because right now the drone has its own problems. We are also hearing some rumors about DJI including a smart controller in the Fly More package instead of the regular controller that we normal people got in our packages. So it might be a good idea to hold on with your purchase a little bit longer until we know more about that as well. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of new technology and new drones, and I love testing them out in different scenarios and see what they're capable of. I just feel like this product is It's still not ready, even though we are kind of given some small portions of new features every now and then. It's still not what I want it to be. With that being said, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, do let me know by clicking on the thumbs up button. It goes a long way and I really appreciate that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're a fan of drones and you want to see more Mavic 3 content. But not only, I'm not limiting myself to just that. I do post a lot of variety of content here on this channel. So take care, everyone. Thank you so much for watching today's video. This is Mike from Drone Supremacy. I'll catch you in the next one. Ciao.